Check 1 2. My mic sounds nice. Check 1. There we go. There we go. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. We are here. We are here. Give the good folks a few moments to come on. Good evening. Welcome back to Conversations of the Chosen. Come on in the room, everybody. Yes, indeed. We're excited to be back again with you here on tonight, Wednesday night. Conversations of the Chosen has resumed. Thank you all for, I want to, first of all, thank everyone for all of their birthday wishes on last week. We had an amazing time. All of your happy anniversaries. Thank you, everybody, for your support and for your encouragement and for your well wishes on last week. Yeah, your guy turned the big 5. Oh, wow. Wow. Yes, indeed. So we're happy to be here. If you're here from our YouTube channel, go ahead and give us, respond to us and let us know where you are in the comments. Welcome, 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 welcome yet again. I'm your host, Lamont Warren. This is Conversation of the Chosen. And to my immediate right, it's like there's another right. I like when people say it like it's another right. But to my right is my lovely, lovely co-host. My lovely wife, Linda Warren, is in the building, everybody. Oh, yes, indeed. There she is. There she is. And as always, let me put her in frame. Don't move. Stay right where you are. Oh, boom. Boom. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Yes, indeed. Good evening, Shari. Good evening, my dear sister Shari. Good evening. Michelle is in the building. My dad is in the building. Hey, Papa. Thank you for joining us on this evening. Joe Byrne is in the building. Shalom. Shalom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome again. And as I said in the beginning, my monologue, I'm going to have to write one up, real nice one. But thank you all for your birthday wishes and your anniversary wishes on last week. We took some time to celebrate, and we had an amazing, amazing, amazing time. And so we want to thank each and every one of you for all of your well wishes, your happy birthdays, your happy anniversaries. And that time away was much needed, and we had a very, very, very good time. And we're excited to be back here with y'all, you know. So, yeah, excited to have you here on this evening. How many people in the chat, in the comments, to let us know how many of you have been able to watch the episode that we're breaking down on this evening? Episode number 6, I believe. Yeah, episode number 6. Yeah. How many of you have been able to watch Intensity, Intense City? This was an intense one, to say the least. But how many of you, let us know in the comment section if you've been able to watch that episode that we're getting ready to dive into on this week. So what I started doing for our Facebook community, I've began to, in our invitations, in the discussion on the invitations, if you take a look, I've taken the opportunity to copy and paste the link to the episodes that we're going to be joining in on, commenting on it, and breaking down. For your information, it's a link directly to thechosen.tv so that you can watch that episode and get familiar with it and prepare your questions, your comments, and some of your questions you might have. So yes, Conversations of the Show. So to tonight's episode, we're going into Intensity, Intense City. Now, this one was a little bit different. Coming off the heels of Clean. And I just wanted to just kind of level set us as we go into Intensity, Intense City, of what was happening in the prior episodes. Again, because these are all build-ups, right? And so episodes number 5 and 4, Clean 1 and Clean 2, were all around the concept and idea of ritual purity, ritual cleanliness, and dealing with that whole idea of being cleansed or clean or ceremonially prepared for worship. And as a part of Jewish custom, as it were, there were a few things that will make one ceremonially unclean. Hey, Stella, welcome. Thank you for joining us. There were some things that will make one ceremonially unclean. And in these episodes, we dealt with the woman with the issue of blood. We dealt with we dealt with Lily, the young woman who
Was sick.
thought she was sick.
Girl.
Yeah. Who happened to be the daughter of she's my notes. Jairus's daughter, who was sick, who was an administrator, who had been doing his research on Jesus. And so the last 2 episodes had to do with ritual cleanliness, ritual purity. And what occurred to me as we were watching that, going through that episode, is that when Jesus comes and he's walking through the city, and the Hokums are here. God bless you. My Hokum, the newlyweds are here. God bless you. Welcome, welcome. Thank y'all for joining us. Appreciate y'all for being here. Oh yeah, that guy in the back is happy. Your season, brother, coming. Yes. Welcome, Hokums. Welcome, Hokums. Ritual purity was a real ritual cleanliness was a principle instituted in the Levitical law of Moses, and there were some commands around being ritually or ceremonially clean. If you came in contact with a dead body or somebody bleeding or somebody having a bodily emission, you had to be cleansed by water. And the issue in the previous 2 episodes was the instrument or the system or the cistern, as it was, served as a vehicle for ritual purity, cleanliness. That if you were in a situation where you were considered ceremonially unclean, you could go to this cistern and be washed in this water, not touched by or made by human hands. And so the system, and I keep saying system, is because it's intentional, because the cistern represents a system that served to provide cleanliness and purity. And that's prophetic for us because this could be representative of churches or ministries, systems where one would come to get washed and clean. And in this episode, I thought it was interesting. It showed that the cistern or the system was broken. And we're seeing a lot in the world, in the country, in the Western world in particular, where a lot of cisterns are broken, right? And so I thought that was an interesting creative choice in the show to display and talk about a broken cistern. And I thought it was very prophetic that there are places that should be a place of cleanliness and sanctification and a place of purity. Welcome, Tiff. Tiff is in the building. God bless you. That should be places and houses of purity, of sanctification, where the system is broken for whatever reason. And so what begins to happen now is I realize all of this conversation in the last 2 episodes about being ritually clean, that there is no sure way to holiness than Jesus Christ. And so as Jesus is walking down is on his way to Jairus' house to lay his hands on Lily, the woman with the issue of blood of 12 years. Lily is 12 years old. That wasn't lost on me. The 12 is the number of government and apostolic order.
And the disciples.
And the disciples, right? Right. So that wasn't lost on me. So the number 12. So Lily is 12 years old. The woman with the issue of blood is Veronica is 12 years with an issue of blood, where she is 12 years of ceremonially unclean, in which the consequence of being ceremonially unclean is isolation. It speaks to a deeper issue of personal holiness. It speaks to the issue of Jesus coming to provide the ultimate sanctification. And when I thought about, as Jesus walked through on his way to Jairus' house, he sanctified everything he came in contact with.
That's good.
Jesus, and that's why Veronica needed not fear contaminating or making anyone, let alone Jesus, ceremonially unclean. And just by Jesus' presence walking through the city, he sanctified everything. I thought that was powerful. And so this week, as we move from clean 1 and 2, we enter into this episode where the discussion is around
intensity.
Intensity,
So,
right?
Yeah, so I think a good segue into that is how Clean 2 ended.
Yeah.
Because we talked all about clean, ceremonial, this and that.
Yeah.
And so the joke was they were ceremonially
Right.
unclean.
Yeah.
So it ended with them baptizing themselves,
Right.
in the water.
Right.
But the camera panned to the intensity, which is coming up next.
Jesus.
With
Eden. With Eden, yes.
So it ended with her just kind of like looking at them, celebrating and her seeing Veronica free.
Right.
But that intensity was all in her face, taking us into this next
I'm so glad
series.
you brought that up, because in that situation, Eden had been in a place of ceremonially uncleanness, right? With the death of her child, and a miscarriage. So she was twice in the situation of ritual uncleanness. And she's watching other people benefit from the presence of Jesus, sanctifying and being healed. And the ending of that episode ended with her as an onlooker, as others were making the plunge, into the waters of purification, sanctification, as it were. Right. Yeah, so that was, yeah. So this episode, how does this episode start? Let's get into that.
Well, it starts with an introduction to Pontius Pilate.
His wife. Yeah.
So it was really them.
A dream, right?
Yeah, it started with a dream, and the snake and Jesus, basically looking at the snake, and then she wakes up. Pontius Pilate's wife.
It looked like Jesus was interceding and praying in this. Was it a vision, or was it like? I don't
know what it was. He looked.
I think it was the lady's dream.
It was her dream, but it looked like he was hitting something.
He was praying. He was.
Okay.
Looked like he was travailing. Jesus was in the spirit, and he was praying, and he was. It looked like he was in a posture of warfare, boy.
He's almost going
Jesus
on.
was going in, and as the serpent was making his way towards him, and I thought what was interesting is that the disciples it looked like they were asleep.
Yeah, they were asleep.
They would be asleep, right?
Yep.
And while Jesus is praying, right? Jesus is interceding, and he's praying fervently. and while the snake is making its way towards them, and this is the opening scene. And then the lady wakes up, right? Jesus slams his hand to the pavement,
Yeah.
stops the serpent, and then the woman wakes up.
Yes. So they introduced Pontius Pilate because it's part of the storyline where the series
Correct.
is going, and kind of giving a just a backstory on him a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's how it opens up.
Yeah.
And of course they pan to the picture when she woke up, spoke to her husband. He was out there crucifying people.
Right. Early in the morning.
And that was ironic too, because she woke up to a crucifixion.
Right.
Because if y'all know who Pontius Pilate is and you know the story, all of that's
all that's taking place.
What do you call it? Foreshadowing.
Yeah. Oh yes. Go ahead now.
Right.
Go ahead now. It's a foreshadowing. Yes.
Right, because she wakes up to a crucifixion.
Right.
And then she talks to her husband. And then they pan to the snake on his arm.
Right. He puts this bangle on his arm, and it has a serpent on it.
So her dream was intense.
Her dream was very intense.
Very intense.
That was that was a very intense.
Yeah, very intense.
Dream.
And then waking up to some intensity.
Right.
It was just it started off intense.
Yeah.
Intentionally intense. All right.
Yes. Very, very intense time. Add that to the fact that the intensity of the reaction to the disciples going out 2 by 2 created a disturbance that I don't think based on their reactions, the disciples were prepared for, right? So they went out 2 by 2, healing, preaching the gospel, casting out devils, right? And they're turning the city upside down, right? And in their mind, good thing, right? No, it turns out that the level of interest and the crowds and the potential for danger for Jesus began to increase. Meanwhile, Jesus is, usually away somewhere praying and solitude and isolation before he enters he don't come back on the scene until like towards the end of the episode. Right. And so after Pontius Pilate's house, it pans to the disciples sharpening swords. They're creating weapons.
How do we get here? I mean, you just explained it, but how did they get there?
Yeah.
They go from healing the sick, like you said.
Yeah.
Going out 2 by 2. Seeing miracles. Now they sharpening. The weapons. Talk about intense.
Intense. Everybody is unnerved at this moment because there's just certain uncertainty. They go and preach the gospel, and it kind of has a different kind of impact, a residual impact to the movement, as it were. The kind of results that they saw people healed, they saw people delivered, they saw people set free, people coming to Christ, but other things started to happen, right? Because as converts from what was going on in that day, people were getting saved. They were no longer participating in the local idol worship.
Well, we're going to see that in this episode.
Yes,
when the guy comes to the door.
Yeah.
All of that. So,
but what the intensity was, now there's greater scrutiny on the ministry of Jesus. There's greater visibility into the ministry of Jesus. More than just people who want to hear his message. Now you're drawing more attention from the religious sect at the time, right? And you're being now it's more of it. Like now, it's not just Jesus preaching. It's his disciples going into different parts of Israel preaching. Now, get this, only 2 in his instructions was just to the lost sheep of Israel, right? So he only went to the 2 by 2 scenario is the instructions were to only go to Jewish people, right? because there will be a time for the Gentiles. But that didn't stop the message. It did not stop the message from going further than they anticipated. Can you imagine this? Imagine this, like okay, you're just on the job with Jesus. Jesus, a couple of weeks, give you, he's demonstrating, he's showing you what to do, he's showing you how to do it. One day in the prayer meeting, he says, all right, y'all going. You going. Then y'all go out, and then to your amazement, right? You're in a position, you're healing the sick, you're doing all the things you've seen Jesus do. Casting out devils. Come on here, somebody. And then only to a mixed bag of results, right? The flip side of the coin is that everywhere the gospel goes, it upsets things, right? It disturbs things. It disturbs systems. It disturbs spirits, right? And platforms and systems that benefit off of them. And so it got so bad, people were creeping in the night to come to where the disciples were, Andrew's house to like look.
James.
Yeah, there's some stuff coming down the pike. Y'all tearing up the streets.
Philip, I think.
Yeah.
So that's that part. Yes. He's like, well, what happened was we liked the message, but such and such it was crazy.
Yeah. But you know what that brings to mind? It brings to mind for me, the Bible says that I lay in Zion a rock of offense. Because the gospel, while it liberates us, right, it is an offense to the kingdom of darkness and the systems of this world. Because now what's happening is those who were spending their resources in places of idolatry have now repented and come into the kingdom, so they no longer support that effort. Oh, but when you start messing with people money, when you start messing with systems, like they did, and just by two going out, they disturbed the status quo in the order of the day. And then here is the mixed bag of reactions. Right. And so they're coming back. They're like, listen, man, it's like brother against brother out there. Right. And it's all kinds of. And so the disciples ain't sure what's going to go on. So they preparing for everything. They sharpening up their swords. They was
getting ready. They like,
yeah. Look over to the corner and my man Z found another shank. Oh my goodness!
So Simon the Zealot, who is a trained killer.
Yes, he is.
He's sharpening a dagger while they over there sharpening.
They got little twigs.
Z went all the way in. He was like, let me go back to what I do.
Yes, he did.
And then here come Nathaniel. Nathaniel, man.
I love Nathaniel because he like some people we know, boy. He like some people. Nathaniel is that guy, say the first thing that come to his head.
Man.
He went over to Z, and Z was like, I don't know if I could trust you with this information. I just don't know what you say.
Nathaniel, like, man, why are you sharpening a dagger?
Yeah.
Why not a kitchen knife or something else,
Yeah.
Because he know he a stone cold killer.
Yeah, he said, you back to your old tricks, ain't you?
I think Z was low-key nervous. Nathaniel.
Yeah, Nathaniel was nervous. He was nervous.
But, only to find out, who was that came over to him? Little John.
Yeah.
Little James.
Yeah.
To tell him that he saw the order.
Yes.
Was looking for him. So
yes.
He was getting prepared for, the order to defend himself from the order.
More intensity, right? Mm-hmm. So now in the midst of all of this new attention, Simon the Zealot now is now he's on the radar like he's always been, but with more of this attention, more spotlight comes upon him because he still has a price on his head after leaving the order, and so some of his zealot brothers come to pay him a visit, and it was pretty. It was pretty intense. It was pretty intense, and so so what else happened? So it looked like he was making bags or something when he was Z.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll go ahead to the next scene.
All right, so the next scene, talk about intense. So y'all follow, like, it was intense. I think just watching it, I was just watching it just to watch it and get familiar with it. But now that we're talking about it, it really was. Every scene from the beginning really to the end was intense. So now we go to Tamar and Mary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the one. That's the one. Oh, my goodness.
The conversation between Tamar and Mary.
Yeah. 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 Let's dig into it. We got to get into that. What I love about these episodes is they show real events, real life situations that we all can relate to. Yes. Right. And
especially this one.
Yes. And it's for me, it's a picture of the church, being in the church for as long as I've been in and you have been in, we've seen a lot of different situations. And one of the biggest challenges in church spaces is that relational aspect, that community aspect, with so much difference, with so much different backgrounds and different different ethnicities and different cultures and different all of these different things coming to be grafted into this new thing. I like how they show even initially the first followers of Christ wrestling with becoming a cohesive body. And here we have...
They did a great job with that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that they weren't, afraid to touch that.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially in the climate we live in right
now. Talk about it. Talk about it.
But so basically they started talking and Mary... Tamar was over how bad the olives were.
Right.
She was very frank, very, straightforward with how she felt about it. And Mary was just in her feelings like, you're too straightforward, kind of thing. Yeah. And so Tamar picked up her tone and her body language and it's like, are we okay? Kind of thing. So they got to talking about what the issues were. Right. And I don't remember everything how they started off. Yeah. Do you?
I do. Of course, Mary was, in the scriptures and studying.
I remember now, but go ahead.
Right. You remember? Yeah. I'm going to let you jump on it because, you're the subject matter expert, on the ladies piece. Oh. Because
don't get me started.
This is an interesting interaction. But it does not just apply to the ladies. But I like to start there because in the episode here are the ladies engaged in this tension, right? Yes. In this intensity,
and not just and they were different colors. One was black and one was white. So that's a whole nother.
One was olive, baby.
Okay, well, olive. So anyway, but not even from I guess a woman's perspective, because I don't have those kinds of issues. I'm sorry.
Maybe you don't, but some people do.
Anyway, I just love the way that they recognize each other's differences. Right. Mary felt that she was disrespectful to the elder, James and John's father. Right. When they were on the olive grove and all of that. But what I loved about it and what came out was Mary. It wasn't even about Tamar.
Right.
It was about what Mary was wrestling with.
Right.
When it all came to the forefront, she said, "You broke into basically you tore a roof off of a house."
She tore the roof off.
She's been disrespecting Zebedee for a long time.
That's true.
So she was like, first of all, she was like, I never heard anybody talk to an elder like that.
Right.
Which was Zebedee. That's the guy that was James and John's dad.
Right. Yeah.
But she was like, you tore the roof off of his house, and the first words out of Jesus' mouth to you was, "Your faith is beautiful." Your faith
is beautiful. Yeah.
And she went into how, where Jesus found me? In a bar.
Drunk. Lord have mercy.
So it wasn't so much about Tamar and who she was. It was about Mary's wrestling with her unresolved insecurities.
Shame.
And that definitely shame.
Yeah.
Shame, insecurities, and so I love that they brought all of that out.
Yes.
In that conversation, in that dialogue, it was excellent.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
I love how they worked through it. Right.
Yes.
They talked through it, because I think too much in the culture today, there's less of a patience to kind of work through and talk through those things. Right. Yes. First with Tamar was like, "Are we okay?" Right? And not really taking a combative approach to it. It was more like, "What's up? Can we talk?" And I love the it was a beautiful tension there for me. Because as Tamar stood in her identity, right, of who she is, a part of that Mary, she wanted, you know what I mean? So there was this beautiful tension, because culturally she was right. From her standpoint and her rearing upbringing, women never talked to men like that. So that was odd. But everything else was more of her playing out her own shame and insecurities
and jealousy.
And jealousy, yeah. But they were able to talk through it in such a way and come to a resolve that I could appreciate, right? And owning certain things, right? Tamar owned some stuff.
Yes, she did.
And Mary owned some stuff. So I thought that was a beautiful example of, of working through that process together as believers, when we have situations like this, so.
And I thought too that, in the end, when she talked to she's like, Mary, I could use some of what you have too.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
So I like that
was beautiful.
So it was an excellent script.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yes.
It would be nice that, if people could really do that kind of time. I think it's doable.
It is doable.
It takes practice. I was just telling my coworker today, I said, people do people stuff. So I'm at a point in my life where that's the expectation, that people are going to do people stuff. So I'm not that moved by people behavior. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah.
So I can try to work through that and talk to people like that. That's an excellent skill to have.
Well,
but
I love that this is specific people, right? As follow. Now we ain't talking about them other people.
But as a specific person,
yeah.
I need to know how to conduct myself.
Yeah.
Specifically talk to other people.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So that's all I'm saying.
People of God. People in the faith.
But
but now I wouldn't put that expectation on people who have not
definitely not
found Jesus.
Yeah, definitely
and
not.
Found him for real.
But what I'm saying is when I'm dealing with people like that, I should be that example. That's what I'm saying.
That's an excellent.
That's my point.
As should us all.
Yes, but to one to another, believers, what you're saying, you're absolutely right. Like we should be able to have that. That was beautiful. It was beautiful. They hugged it out. They cried it out. She got to tell her story. About
yeah. Because both of them had
pain.
Preconceived. They had both had pain, but they also had preconceived ideas about one another.
Yes. And she was very, Tamar really said, just because I'm not Jewish doesn't mean I don't know pain.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was heavy. That was heavy.
And it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big one.
That was really big. I like how Mary helped her put her necklace back on.
Oh,
after she understood like the story, because Mary wrote it off as kind of like idol worship a little bit.
Yeah, she did earlier.
That's why I couldn't sell this
because oh wait, I'm missing the comments. Hold on.
We gonna get to the comments. Okay. I was just working through that section. So here we go. Here we go.
On the YouTube page. YouTube, y'all quiet on YouTube. Come on now, talk to us. Let me go back to Facebook. Facebook talking to us.
I got YouTube. I got both of them over here.
Hey, I'm flipping between two.
Okay. The intensity, my mom says, of the conversation was great. They pressed to understand one another, and that's what we got to do.
Like that was what was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like and that's good.
Yes.
You know, it's good to understand each other. So
right.
I like that.
Right. Absolutely. Stella says, I like when she told her, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you. That Jesus healed you, but you still holding on. Woo!
Wait a minute.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
indeed.
We could not miss that statement. Because Mary's like, oh, no. Don't say I'm sorry. You always say the right thing. She's like, no, I'm not saying I'm sorry. Like, right. Let's be clear.
Right.
I'm sorry that you're holding on.
Yes.
When Jesus forgave you.
Yes.
And the way she said it, though.
Yeah.
It was with such compassion.
It had no guile in it.
None.
It had no shade in it.
Yeah.
And believers, can I say this? Believers, can we get rid of the shadiness in our interaction, in our conversation with us, with each other? Can we leave the guile out of it? Yes. It reminds me, and I'm just quick turn because this made me think of this situation.
Okay.
When your girl Tabitha Brown, was some of you might know who Tabitha Brown is, but if you don't, just go with me. So there was a situation where she shared an exciting time in her life when she was able to do something very, very, very awesome for her husband, and there was a radio personality who had a very, very negative reaction to her good news. And the way Tabitha had responded, and I analyzed that thing. I watched that thing. I watched for facial nonverbal cues. And I'm telling you that her response was not a clapback. It was, and that reminded me of, that Tamar response. It had no guile in it.
No, none.
It had no attitude on it. It had no carnality or flesh on it. It was loving truth. It was loving truth. And I loved that.
And it called Mary up higher. It called
it did.
To a place of maturity.
It did.
And forgiveness of herself. It just it pulled her up.
And you could see it do it too.
Yeah. It pulled her up.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of that's a beautiful thing again. Even in a what is it, a tense
intensity. Tension. Yeah.
Even in a place of tension.
Yes.
Being able to call that person.
Yes.
There's an exchange, but it's a good one, like a come up exchange.
Yes.
Exchange. So that was powerful, actually.
Yeah. Can we do that? Can we get to that place where where our words are seasoned with salt, that they edify, they build up, because that's what Tamar did. Really, in essence, she called out. She called out this insecurity. She called out this, shame that Mary was still living with, hiding behind piety, hiding behind humility, which which is really false.
And I couldn't help. Now I might be getting all
Go
on
ahead.
the edge with this.
Go ahead.
But when I was watching it again today, I was just like, it was something about when Tamar was like, "Oh, these olives are rancid," and then she said, "But the grapes, they're so sweet." It was almost their conversation. Parallel. It was a parallel.
Yeah. You caught that?
Yes, I caught that. The olive and the grapes,
yes,
the good soil, the bad soil, or the soil that was fertilized, the soil that wasn't. It was such a mirror of that whole scene.
Yes.
So I caught that.
Yeah, I see you. Oh yes. Let's see.
And when I wrote down their names in my notes, I put Tamar and Olive. I meant to put Tamar and Mary. And then I wrote down grapes and olives.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow. That was heavy. We're going to jump on that real quick. Let's see. Shai said, I love the conversation. Effective communication of speaking the truth in love. Love motivated. A mature conversation. My favorite scene. Absolutely. She said, yes, Linda, conversational conflict should always end in lifting and edifying each other. Absolutely. Because, people hide behind, they'll say, I'm telling the truth in love, but you can't smell love nowhere. You can't smell it.
You can't smell it.
Because we have to stop falling in love with getting people told. Right? That your entire interaction with another believer shouldn't be correcting them. When we talk about submission and submitting one to another, we lean entirely into the one side of what that actually means. Getting people told to, because most of us, here's the problem. A lot of people dealt a long time with powerlessness and not having a voice and not having a say in things. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen is that they get a role of leadership in church, and then they become they telling everybody off. You hate then they become the person people hate to see coming. Listen, let's get delivered from some stuff, right? And season our conversation with salt, right? So that because the idea is for people to come into truth lovingly, right? Yeah. Lovingly. So, yes, absolutely. Stella said, yep, I caught that too. So the grapes, if we could sum up that interaction, right? Tamar would be a grape, and Mary would be an olive. You did say she was olive. She was olive. Come on now. Yeah. So even in the or vice versa, even in that, and even that in that scene, they were dealing with grapes and trying to figure out how to produce something that is sweet. Yeah. Right? That is palatable, that is consumable, not rancid. Oh, come on, Holy Ghost. This is good. This is good. Yeah. To make oil.
Come on.
And in the midst of that conversation is all about them. It's all about us. How do we produce fruit? Yeah. Come on here. Fruit and oil. Come on. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, that was good right there. Yeah, that was good right there. Let's see. Let's see. Most times is a backdoor. Most times is backdoor petty. I need to get the last word and make my point. Absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta be right.
Absolutely.
I was talking about that today too at work. I mean, like I'm not saying work, but it's just people do like to be right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm right. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to get off that as believers. I'm lobbying this expectation for believers. Let this be how we interact, right? Make sure if you have to speak the truth in love to somebody, practice it on yourself. Right? Look in the mirror and tell yourself what you about to try to tell somebody else. And if you don't smell the love off your breath, close your mouth. Let God just send somebody else to say it, right? But yeah,
that scene was
everything.
It was big and very intense.
Yeah, very intense.
And you think we're not even gonna get into? We're gonna leave that alone. I might just study that for myself. But the processing of grapes and olives, all that stuff to produce wine and oil, it's crazy.
Come on, baby, we did that this weekend.
Oh,
we did that this weekend. Come on.
It was a really fun experience.
So listen. Let's touch on it a little bit, right?
Okay.
We're going to set up another encounter for us to go to the Museum of the Bible, because that's where we get the conversation around the olives.
Oh, okay.
But the process is similar, right? There is a crushing. For one of our activities on vacation this week, we were able to go to a vineyard. If you've never had the opportunity to go to a vineyard, listen, go. Do yourself a favor. At this particular vineyard, we had the pleasure and the opportunity. My lovely wife scouted out this event, or this particular something that we could do on vacation, right? We're always going on adventures. For those who know us, L&L is always on an adventure. And so she had planned for us to go to this vineyard. And I want to say to husband, listen, sometimes, right, when your wife wants you to go somewhere with her or do something with her, brothers, here's some good marriage advice or premarital advice for the fellas. Say yes and go. There's a great chance that you'll thoroughly enjoy the trip. And so we went to this vineyard, and we got to walk through the facility and see how the process, how the wine is made, all the different tools that they used, and the processing, these big, huge bins of wine. And this particular wine was made from muscadine grapes, our favorite grapes, our favorite grapes from down south. And so one of the activities where we had purchased the tickets to actually go and crush grapes, right? And so with our bare feet, yes, indeed, in a big old barrel.
We have tape.
Yeah. we got. I'll share that on our one of our reels at a later date. But we got to watch the process of making wine, and we stood in these big basins, and it was a whole cardio workout, wasn't it?
Yeah, Lamont was getting a cardio workout. I was kind of like taking my time, because first of all, there was a bee in his barrel.
Yeah, it was a bee in my barrel.
I was watching that bee, and then the texture for me was kind of funny. And if like the harder you ran, the slushy, it was splash up on your legs. So I was kind of cruising, but I was crushing.
Yeah, you was crushing, baby. I
was just doing it a little slower, but it is a workout.
Yes, it is an intense workout.
Yeah,
crushing grapes. But I thought about just kind of the parity between the wheel crushing of the olives and then human weight crushing out grapes.
Okay.
I thought about that parallel. And it just came down to the realization that whatever God's trying to get out of you, it's gonna it could either be the will or the feet. Lord have mercy. The will of, that's a message that'll preach right there. The will of the feet. And both processes included the crushing. I thought that was pretty amazing. All right, I'm off that. So the scene shifts from Mary and Tamar having this discussion and coming to a resolve together, coming up and finding that they had, I love too, and I want to move on from that they finally saw the value in each other. Mm-hmm. They finally saw, once they came to a place of mutual understanding, all right, mutual understanding, and begin to hear one another and see one another. They were able to work in an efficient and collaborative effort. I think one of the major keys in the body of Christ today, in terms of achieving this unity in the faith, part of it is us seeing and finding the value in one another, right? Because every joint supply a need. But you can't get a need met from the person that has your supply if you don't see in them the value that is there, right? If you don't see the value in there. And it's important for us to see the value in each other so that we can receive the nourishment that comes from you. Yeah, that was. Stella said, "Oh, I want to do that." Yeah. All right. So what's the next scene? What happens?
I'm not sure, but I put John's disciples. I feel like something happened in between that. Probably the guy coming through the window at night. That happened. That happened. We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But John's disciples.
Yes.
To get some information. About ask Jesus a question.
Oh, okay. So they're looking for Jesus, banging on the door in the middle of the night.
Well, that wasn't them. That was another guy.
That was another guy. Okay, city. He was reporting what had happened.
How they turned, how Andrew and Philip turned their city upside down. The capitalists, I think.
Yes, the capitalists. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I was going back to that point.
Yeah, you talked about that a little bit.
So in the capitalists, there was idol worship. In this idol worship, it'll take a while to kind of break down the particular idol worship. But understand this: whenever there is an idol in a city, it is tied to the city's economic structure. So when Philip and who went with Philip?
Andrew.
Philip and Andrew went and turned the city upside down. It disturbed the economy because people were being converted. So no resources were going to continue to go into that, business venture, to go into that business. And so it began to shift certain things in that environment. And so they came to report, man, the message was great, but the results on the other end, there's an impact to conversion. And that's something that we need to understand. There's an impact to conversion. What's going to happen as we start continuing to preach the gospel and people start coming out of these illicit lifestyles, right? Who are coming off of OnlyFans. Come on, somebody. Who are coming off of some of these porn sites and coming out of some of these institutions that are monopolizing off of people's brokenness. What's going to happen is those things are going to begin to lose support, and then that's where some of the persecution is going to start to come from. And so they begin to report this. And so here again, you can see the intensity rising as a result of the gospel being preached. I dare to venture to say that when we get back to preaching the gospel, when the gospel is preached like it should be, it is going to disturb a lot of things. It's going to upset a lot of different structures, different systems that are in place. In fact, when you go to the book of Acts, same guy, Philip the evangelist, goes in and he tears up the city, and the apostles go to check it out, see what's going on. And there was a sorcerer there, and everywhere Paul went, it was like, here comes the man of God. And at one point, it bothered Paul so much that he cast the devil out of him. Same situation. There was a benefactor attached to that sorcerer that they were making money off of. And when that devil got cast out of them, when salvation came, it disturbed that revenue stream. It disturbed that revenue stream. And so this is what we're seeing happening in the gospel. No more $1,500 autograph. Come on, somebody. It's going to disturb some things, right? And so that was happening. That was part of the intensity. Yeah. What's next? What happened next? So it shifts back to
Eden and her husband Simon.
Eden and
Simon.
They
were at the table talking.
At the table, yeah.
Dinner.
Yeah.
He was trying to be,
he was trying to be present.
Yeah.
Right. He was trying to be present. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's when the door came. The knock at the door.
A knock at the door came because now that Jesus' fame is at an all-time high, they needed to be sure whoever was, because again, this intensity rose. And now there are reports coming in that Jesus, that charges are being wrote up about for Jesus, accusing him of false prophecy. And so the disciples was they were on edge ever since the woman with the issue of blood was able to touch him. Mm-hmm. They were on edge. They were on edge because by their estimation, Jesus was touched too easily. Even though Jesus ain't had no problem with it.
Right.
The disciples saw this as a security risk of the highest order. Okay. An unclean woman was able to break through the crowd and touch him in a way that was very noticeable.
He looked like he got gut punched.
Yeah.
They were so extra.
They were.
James, somebody had a dagger and they didn't use it. Boys would be boys. They start blaming. Oh, and then let's not forget how Peter played Matthew a compliment.
Yes, he
having
did.
A sharp mind.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So,
yes, he
anyway.
did. Yeah.
So now, the disciples, James and I forget who came with him. But they came to Peter's door.
Yes.
Simon's door.
Yes. Yeah.
Wanting him to, talk. Because they were all hype and just intense and scared.
Yes.
Because they're like, these guys could be spies. They didn't know who these two disciples were. They claimed to be John's disciples and all that. So Peter was like, Simon was like, listen, this has to wait.
Yeah.
And by then, Eden and left. She stepped off. She was like,
Yeah. So it continues to show the intensity even in Simon's home, as he, again, balancing ministry and marriage and being present in both places at the same time. I love how they added that to it, because it was definitely intense, and it looked like they were getting close, and it would look like Eden was getting ready to kind of open up to him and say something, and then immediately they were disturbed. And so I love that it included that level of intensity. Then it shifts, and I want to move past that. Jesus now is seen coming into the area. He's seen coming into the area, and immediately the crowds begin to form around Jesus, and Jesus immediately starts the ministry of healing people of various ailment. One man whose tongue was he was mute, and Jesus healed him, and he began to speak. Another person he healed. You had the scripture we were reading for that,
Matthew,
right?
Yes. 11.
All right, let's get into the Bible. So
he healed the little blind kid, the blind young man. He was blind, and
yeah. So he healed the blind man. We're just gonna set this up real quick.
So it's Matthew 11, chapter 11.
So if you have your Bible, it is Matthew chapter number 11, right?
So
And which verse?
Chapter 1. We can start chapter 1.
Verse 1. So yeah. So go ahead and read it, and we'll pause before
we get to his response.
Yeah, get to Jesus's response. Yeah. So this scene is right here in this chapter and verse. So go ahead.
So it says, now it came to pass when Jesus finished commanding his 12 disciples that he departed from there to teach and preach in their cities. And when John had heard in prison about the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples and said to him, are you the coming one, or do we look for another?
Right.
So that was the question.
So that was what John the Baptist had sent his disciples to ask Jesus as his fame began to arise. At this time, John the Baptist is in prison, and he's been in there for a little bit. And then in the episode, as Jesus is healing, in the midst of this crowd is a mixed bag of people, right? There are people there who want to be healed. There are people that it's the tent city. It's people who are settled in tents, since pilgrims that have come and pitched tent ever since he did the Sermon on the Mount. And so they were anticipating and waiting for Jesus. And when Jesus came, people surrounded him immediately. But what also was in the crowd of onlookers were the Pharisees. The zealots were there as well. Before this scene, the zealots had actually caught up with Simon. Simon's a zealot, and he began to tell them about Jesus and his Messiah. And I love how Simon said, listen, he's not who we thought he was. Like, yeah, he not who we thought he was. Right. And so they stuck around to see. So they were in the crowds. Also, Gaius is in the crowd. Also, Jairus is in the crowd, and Rabbi Yusuf is in the crowd. So everybody is in the crowd for one reason or another. Some are there from healing. Some are there as skeptics. Some are there as witnesses. Some are there just to kind of see what's going on. But nevertheless, everybody is there. This is the level of intensity that is there. There's an edict out on Jesus for false prophecy. Rabbi Yusuf and Jairus is there to kind of, you can hear Rabbi Yusuf under his breath say, "Careful, careful." As Jesus began to preach and teach, and it was like, "Who do you think you are?" It
was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got tickled though when the 2 disciples that came, they said, "Yeah, we heard what happened in Nazareth." And so to your point earlier, because he only sent the 2 out to preach to Israel, to the Jews, doesn't mean the word didn't spread. You know, and that at the same time, while they were doing, and going out 2 by 2, Jesus was in Nazareth.
Right. Tearing up the streets.
Preaching, telling them he's the Messiah.
Yeah.
And so they heard about that word on the street. We heard what you did in Nazareth.
Yeah.
So yes. So I thought, so once they asked the question that John asked them, I thought that it was interesting that Jesus, they took this opportunity to have Jesus state, now John being the most important man in the world, whatever he said.
You got to get that right. You got to get that right. Come on now. You got the Bible. Come on now.
Jesus says.
So let's set it up, right? So the disciples of John the Baptist had a message, and the message was, as we read in Matthew 11, he says, "Are you the one,
coming?
Or
are you the coming one?
Are you the coming one?
Or do we look for another?
Or do we look for another?
And Jesus said, repeat that last part.
Excellent writing. Excellent writing.
Or do we look for another?
Or do we look for another? Now, most of us read this and we kind of read past it, but it's a very
wait.
I like that they took the time to kind of go into this. Go ahead.
So the verse, and I think I found it, where he says, in verse 10, this is still chapter 11. He says, for this is he of whom it is written, behold, he was talking about John, I send my messenger before your face, who will prepare your way before you. But surely I say to you, among those born of women, there was not risen one greater than John the Baptist.
Come on now.
But he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he.
My. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
So that's what he said.
So
I can't mess that up.
yeah.
No one greater than John the Baptist.
So just to kind of go back a little bit, in the episode, when they asked the question, Jesus gave them a very, very simple response. And Rabbi Yusuf was concerned. He was like, man, careful, because he knew whatever he was going to communicate to John the Baptist, in view of all of these people and the Pharisees that in the edict that was out for him, they was hoping he wouldn't say anything too inflammatory that would cause him to be seized in that moment. But little do they know,
he's the Messiah.
They already tried it, and he said, "Not today."
Yeah,
he said, "Not today." And so he said, "Tell my cousin John, the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed," right? And he turned around and asked the crowd in the episode. He asked the crowd, "Does it sound like my response was a rebuke to John the Baptist?" Remember that part? Mm-hmm. And who answered first? Nathaniel. He said, "I can always count on you, Nathaniel." He said, "I can always count on you." And so Nathaniel was like, and so Jesus began to break down. He said, "Well, who did you think you were going out?" And that's right in the scripture. As a matter of fact, that's where the scripture picks up. He says, what did you go out into the wilderness to see? Verse 7, a reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in kings' palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet. Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, I will send my messenger ahead of you, what you just read, who will prepare the way for you, before you. Truly, I tell you, among those born of a woman, there is not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whosoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subject to violence. I want to stop right there because in the episode, it was important for Jesus to share that part because he said, now telling you all about how great John the Baptist was, even he still had questions. Mm-hmm. John the Baptist, his cousin, even at that point, when the intensity was raised, had questions. How many of us, when seasons and times get intense, we have questions? Now, are you the one, or should we be looking for another? I thought that was very, very powerful, that Jesus was not offended by the questions. But it also served, as we said in this episodes before, how Jesus shows up is not always exactly how we envision him showing up. There are situations and circumstances in our lives where Jesus shows up in his own way and not ours. Can I get an amen there, somebody? Sometimes when Jesus shows up, it's nowhere near what you imagined or pictured, but he shows up nonetheless. And here was many of their situations. They expected Jesus to show up in military fashion, right, and destroy all of the enemies of Israel, to release them from being underfoot of the Roman Empire and the Roman authorities. But what Jesus had come to do and establish was not that. He came to do something much greater. He came to do something much deeper. And so even John, who now is in the custody of the Roman Empire, is wondering, hey, when this thing gonna jump off, bro? Come on now. I'm in jail. I done preached about you. I done talked about you. I done talked you up now. Like, what's going on? When we gonna when we gonna chain breaker this thing? What's going on? Like, and Jesus, yeah. You gonna get up? We gonna ride? You gonna spin the block? What you gonna do? And Jesus like, tell them this: the blind see, the lame walk. The lepers have been cleansed. And by the way, the dead are being raised. Yeah. Good God Almighty. Yes, indeed.
Calm down, John.
Calm down, John. Here are all the results you need to know. Does that check your box? The blind see. The lame walk. Yeah, the dead are being raised. And so, yeah, what was the next scene?
We have to talk about real quick.
Yeah.
We talk about this, that Pharisee.
Yeah.
And when he turned to him, and it's actually in chapter 11.
Yeah. Blessed are you who are not offended.
Yeah, that part. We can't miss that.
Yeah.
And it's in Luke. I'm going to say it's in Luke because it's in 11, but it's also in Luke. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Luke. Where are you at? You're in 11?
I'm still in Matthew 11.
I see something because I think it's there too, but I feel like Luke goes into a little bit more. Maybe not.
Let's see.
Yeah, Luke 5. Luke 5. He gets into it with this.
Luke 5.
Was it 5? Yeah. Sorry, Luke 7.
Let's see. Luke 7. All right. Let's go.
Yeah. What then shall I like? Oh, when he gets to talking about, it's in verse 33.
Verse 33.
When he's talking about, he says,
Luke 7:33.
Yes. Yeah. He says, for John the Baptist came neither eating bread nor drinking wine, and you say he has a demon. Mm-hmm. The Son of Man has come eating and drinking, and you say, look, a glutton and a wine bibber and a friend.
Look at the parallel though. Look at the parallel. Read verse 33 again.
For John the Baptist came neither bread nor drinking wine.
Okay, so he ain't do none of that.
Right. And you said he has a demon.
You said he had a demon. He don't drink. He don't eat bread. Mm-hmm. You said he had a demon. What's next? The Son of Man, verse 34.
Yes. The Son of Man has come eating and drinking.
Eating and drinking.
And you say, look, a glutton and a wine bibber, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is justified by all her children. Right?
Yeah, that's what he said to him.
And then I think that's it. That's the part I'm gonna stop at. But I thought I saw something about when he said something about being offended. But anyway, that man was crazy. That just stuck out to me. You know, that stuck out to me when he was like, I'm gonna always be offended. He played that role.
Yes, he did.
He said, I'm always be offended.
He sat in that crowd with a whole attitude.
And I was just like, dude, like, and so the conversation that you and I had was about how some people, and this conversation can go a whole nother series or something, but you know, you could be in the presence of God, and the presence, you know, he was in the presence of the Messiah. These Pharisees, some of them felt his presence, no doubt. You can't undeniable. He's speaking, and you're seeing miracles and hearing all of this, and you still in your heart reject him. Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, just you know, and it's allowed. You know, God allowed it. It. But and I was just like, oh, that's really, really scary and sad. But they would not conform. Their hearts were just not changed. Yeah, I'm always be offended. Right. Oh. Crazy. I said, "Ooh."
I found the verse. It was Matthew 11.
Yeah, I thought
it is Matthew 11. It's with verse 4.
Read it all.
Matthew 11:4. He says, "Go back and report." This is when he tells the disciples to take this report back to John. Go back and report to John what you hear and see.
Yes. Verse 6.
The blind receive sight, the lame walk. Those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. Yeah, or I think King James says not offended.
Yeah, my version says verse 6, and blessed is he who is not offended because of me.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Dude was offended beyond and let it be known. I will always be offended.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Blessed is he
and I know
who is not offended
happens,
because of me.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
But I like I said earlier, the scripture does say, I lay in Zion a rock of offense. But it only offends those who are in opposition to the Christ, the truth, right? And so, he played that thing. He was thoroughly offended. Never mind, blinded eyes was open. Never mind.
He called it sorcery.
Never mind.
and a false prophet.
With all of these convincing proofs, he stood there offended. You know, we got to be careful.
Yeah, we do.
You know, because like I always say, these are all messages for us. These are all things for us to consider. And all of the different characters that are being played out in scripture, that are being played out as even in the series, to make sure that character does not exist in you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That when you see miracles, when you see God do things, when you see blinded eyes open, when you witness the hand of God at work, what is the response in your heart? You got to make sure we're not that one.
Offended. I'm always been
offended. Offended. Oh, my goodness.
He played that role.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Talking about he was protecting the people.
Right. Okay. Right.
So, yeah, I had to go back. I had to get that before we left that scene.
What happened next? Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh, Z in
Tiff
the order.
says that spirit of offense is something else.
It's the
yes,
truth.
It is.
Z in the order. So after that, Z said Simon Zealot in the order had a conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the zealots had been present during this entire discourse of Jesus healing, his interaction with the Pharisees, and him preaching. also his words to John the Baptist's disciples to send this message back. In the episode, they're watching, and as the crowds begin to disperse, and Z makes eye contact with one of his fellow former brothers of the order of the Zealots, and begin to so look at them and like, hey, this is, trying to see if they were impacted by Jesus's words, and were they moved by the miracles and the signs and wonders. And you could see the tension in the zealot.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
The tension in the zealot to release all of his training to respond to the presence of Jesus and the miracles.
That he didn't quite understand.
That he didn't quite understand.
Oh, God.
But you could see the conflict in his face.
Yep.
You could see the conflict, hear the conflict in his voice in whether to carry out his order as a soldier in the order, or to convert, like
he was all
Z.
conflicted. Yeah,
he was tore up. He was in a pickle.
One thing he knew was that the Simon who he thought he knew was dead. Yeah,
that
was what he was gonna report. That was the truth he came to.
Yeah,
that's what he came to.
That's the best he could do in that moment.
Yep.
And he couldn't confess, but he could make a decision at that point. Okay, my orders are to kill you, but from where I'm standing, dude already dead. You ain't even that dude. That dude is dead. And I thought that was an amazing moment, because sometimes the preaching of the gospel does not always yield a conversion. That there are those who still will resist regardless of overwhelming proof, overwhelming evidence, that there'll still be. And in that moment, you could see two different kinds of hardening of the heart.
Yes.
Right? It was the hardening of the heart for the Pharisee.
Yeah, who was offended.
Right? Who was offended because he was stuck in his religious order. Wait. Also, in how they anticipated Mashiach or Messiah coming. The Pharisees had one way.
The
Zealots had their way. Both of them were looking for something similar, but in a different kind of, one was a little more conservative, and another one was a little more extreme. And they were looking for, and they resist this reality of Jesus. They didn't like this one.
No.
They was like, nah, this can't be it. This can't be him. In spite of the miracles, in spite of the proof, they showed, I love that they showed two different kinds of resistance to the message of Jesus. Woo! God of mercy.
Ain't that something?
Yeah.
But then what was crazy is the Roman soldier, Gaius, was in the midst too.
Yes, he was.
Because they all three different. The Roman.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Pharisee.
Yep. Yep.
And so, and remember when Simon looked at him and smiled like,
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
He was all up in there. So, yeah. So.
Guy is one altar call away. Gaius is one episode. He one altar call away, man. He is there because before they broke, Jairus reminded them of a kind of because it was getting intense.
It was getting intense
because that Pharisee was moving forward in the crowd. He was looked like he was about to make a move on Jesus,
right.
and then Gaius was like, "That's right, This man is right. Everybody, go to your homes. And he pressed up on that Pharisees. I said, go home.
Yeah.
And everybody began to break out and head home. And then what happened after the zealots left? They began to walk off, and Peter said something I thought was pretty funny. He said, He said, the best miracles are when the Pharisees are around. Because he loved to see the look on their faces when Jesus performs a miracle. I thought that was amazing.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So so then the two friends can't get them. When the guy who brought his friend who's blind.
Yeah.
That's what happens after.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or Bartimaeus or something.
Yeah. You gotta get them names right, baby. We gotta get them names right. So, yes. So, we gotta get them names right. I didn't write their name. So that's how the episode comes to an end. Is Barnaby?
Yeah.
Barnaby and his friend, a blind woman, comes to Jesus, and Barnaby motions to Jesus, that she's in need of a healing, and he says to Jesus, but she won't ask, and Jesus, the long and short of it is Jesus heals her, but he talks about how beautiful their faith has been the entire time. He talks about their hospitality and their loving embrace of him. And Jesus asks her, like, why are you, he said, are you afraid to ask for a healing? And you remember her response? Her response was,
I don't remember. She said something like, I don't know. She had other things to do. Other people needed them.
Other people needed them. Mm-hmm. That was the part I was after, because I thought that was amazing. And then she said, and Jesus recounted other miracles, and that built her faith. And she was like, you believe without even ever seeing a miracle. And she said, he said, I didn't even need ears to experience and believe in that miracle. And then Jesus laid his hands on her and opened up her eyes and restored her sight. And he looked at Barnaby, and Barnaby was like, this is not about me. And Jesus just loved their friendship, and how they looked after each other, how one was more consumed with the other's healing than their own. I thought that was a beautiful juxtaposition. What kind of friends do you have?
The way you just asked that question. That
Lord have mercy.
Guy on that, no.
Yeah. I'm just saying, let that sizzle in your spirit a little bit. Do we have the kind of friends that desire our healing, our progress, our deliverance before their own? I thought that was amazing. I thought that was a rarity. And when Jesus looked at that relationship and how Barnaby deferred in that moment, he said, this is about her. This is about her. This is about her. This is about her. And Jesus, first he took her crutch away, said, you're not going to need this anymore. And then he said, Barnaby, give me a hug. And gave him a hug. And I love how Jesus snuck that miracle in on Barnaby. And Barnaby was healed, unbeknownst to himself, until he bent to move his legs and he realized that Jesus had healed him on the low in that same moment. And that's how that episode ended. Yes, indeed.
Well, it ended
No.
Eden and Simon. Talking about she finally told him that she miscarried.
Yeah. And the intensity went back up again.
Right. It ended intensely.
It ended intensely.
Oh,
yeah.
Mercy.
Yeah.
That was a lot. So we're gonna see.
So here, Simon Peter is celebrating, seeing these miracles, and comes home, and this information is communicated to him. And that's how the episode went off.
Yes.
Yeah. Cliffhanger.
Right.
Cliffhanger.
We shall see in the next episode.
Yes. So that was episode number 6, Intensity, Intent City. Listen, y'all, we almost through the end of season 3. Can you believe it? We are just in time. Almost. We got 2 more episodes in season 3. Next week episode, what do we have? Now, for those of you who just joining us, this is Conversations of the Chosen with L and L. Here we are doing breakdowns of the Chosen TV series. We use it as an opportunity to discuss biblical themes in an effort to promote biblical literacy, right? Get in your Bible, all right? As we always say, The Chosen is not a replacement for your Bible, but rather a supplement. If you're anything like me, I'm a visual learner, and I love that this series creates an opportunity for us to experience the scripture through these presentations, so that we can connect with the culture, to connect with the times, to connect with the themes that are universal from generation to generation. As you can tell through this breakdown, there's nothing new under the sun, right? And so all of the things that existed in those days, all of the issues and challenges that existed in the day of the apostles are issues that we face even today. Episode number 7, Ears to Hear, will be next week. The way you can watch the episode, and this is if you're just joining us for the first time, or second, third, or fourth, or whatever. The way this show is, this is a live show, right? We break down the episode, but we invite you to engage with us in the comments and share with us. We even have the opportunity now for you to even come on screen and share some of your insights from the episodes. So what we ask is for next week that you would prepare yourself by watching episode number 7, season 3, Ears to Hear. That's the next episode. And so you will go to thechosen.tv and you will watch that episode, or you can watch on Netflix, Hulu, Disney, the CW. What else? I think those are all of them. Or on the app. You can download the Chosen app to your phone, and you can watch the episodes right there. Episodes are an hour, maybe an hour long now. And so there are many ways you can watch them. Again, thechosen.tv, the Chosen app, Netflix, Disney, Hulu, the CW, all these different ways that you can watch them. You can watch some episodes on YouTube. So what the idea is, you watch the episode before, and we are binge watch nation. So we watch all of the episodes. We encourage you to watch all of them. Bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your insights, bring all of your questions as well. And so on Wednesday nights, we come right back to this place, and God bless you. And we break down, we do a breakdown, and we do exactly what we just did. We find the lessons, we find the messages within each episode. And so we invite you to join us next week right here, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, here on YouTube, Facebook. Soon, we're coming to TikTok. We coming for you, TikTok. And so we will invite you to join us on next week, same time, same channel, for L&L Conversations of the Chosen podcast. We thank you for joining us tonight. Here's some goodies. Oh yeah. So if you're also on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Conversations of the Chosen on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified every time an episode drops. Let's take these numbers up, y'all. Let's get these numbers up. Let's get the word out. Let's share with our friends and family. If you have missed an episode, hey, go back and check the rewatch. Check out the rewatch here on Facebook as well as YouTube. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us and spending some time with us on your Wednesday nights. We'll see you again next week. Again, next week episode is Ears to Hear, episode number 7, season 3. Thank you so much. Oh, yes. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending some time with us on tonight. And we'll catch you next week. Same time, same place, here on YouTube, here on Facebook, here on all of your social media outlets. Conversations of the Chosen with L and L. We'll see y'all next week. God bless.